Brethren Lassa calling Brethren Joss. Are you reading me? Over. We are in urgent need of an airplane to transport a very sick patient to Joss. Is there a mission airplane available today?
Brethren Joss to Brethren Lassa. Sudan United Mission have a flight scheduled for Butte. Can you meet the airplane at Butte? Over.
Butte is 150 miles from Lassa. We have an extremely sick patient. I do not believe she could survive an across-country journey to Butte. Laura, listen. We're anxious about your condition. We still can't figure out what's wrong. So, we're taking you in, Laura. It's all been arranged. They have laboratories at Joss and they can find out what's wrong.
The people in this program are actors, but the story is true. It's a detective story about doctors and missionaries dedicated to helping others who suddenly found themselves fighting to save their own lives.
Can't we open a window? Just a little? It's suffocating.
Gospel Coda.
The sick woman was Laura Wine, a 70-year-old missionary nurse at the church clinic in Lassa, a village in northeastern Nigeria. Esther Hamer and her husband, Dr. John Hamer, left their clinic in a desperate effort to save her. The plane was diverted to an airstrip only 30 miles away, but the trip was still a racking ordeal for the patient.
Watch Laura now. Hold on to her. We're coming to the first riverbed.
Laura Wine had come to Africa in her late 60s after retiring from a career as a nursing educator in Illinois.
The mission plane's already here.
Leaving the Land Rover behind, they flew with Laura to Jos, a large mining town of about 35,000 people in central Nigeria. Protestant missionaries have been active in the area for 90 years, and the church plays an important role in the life of the town. A missionary organization called the Sudan Interior Mission operates one of Nigeria's best equipped hospitals there.
When did you first get sick?
A week back? She could have felt bad before that, but Laura would never say.
Complaining doesn't come natural to her.
Now, what were her initial symptoms?
Well, first off, simply a sore throat. It looked a little red, that's all.
She felt tired. Laura never normally feels tired.
Then she started the aching in her back and her legs, and then she began a fever.
When did the yellow sores first appear?
Maybe Tuesday? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tuesday. And the next day she had developed a rash. I couldn't figure out what was going on. It stumped me. I thought with the fever and drowsiness, maybe we have malaria here.
And so you put her on a course of chloroquine?
Yep. No good. She failed to respond to anything I gave her. I've never seen a sickness quite like this.
The hospital serves up to 250 inpatients and 600 outpatients each day. Emergency cases come in from hundreds of miles away. The hospital has a staff of about 75. One of Laura's nurses was Charlotte Shaw. Char tried to soothe Laura's throat with glycerin. In her hurry, she forgot about the cut she had gotten from the rose bush.
Laura Wine, upon your confession of faith in the love and power of God, your willingness to commit your life completely to God through sickness and through health, and your desire to live your life to His glory, I now anoint you with oil in the name of the Lord. For the forgiveness of your sins, for the strengthening of your faith, and for the restoration of wholeness to your body according to the will of God.
Laura died in Jos, a cruel end for a life of dedication. But for the hospital staff, the nightmare was just beginning.
Out of breath. Dr. Day! Dr. Day! Oh, that migraine went quick. How dare you go around with a back like that? You should get it seen to. You should be in bed.
I can't
now,
climb into the
you
bed.
just come along with me.
Look,
Totally irresponsible.
Shaw, I'm quite all right. Shaw, in there? Shaw? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. Anything the matter?
I'm sick, just darn sick.
I brought you this little present. In appreciation of what you did for my back.
Oh no. Would you open it for me? I don't need to.
Sure. Here you are. Hear no evil, speak no evil, and see no evil.
There's no need, really no need.
What do you think you've got, flu?
I keep getting these chills sweeping over me in a cold wave, and then I get hot, really hot.
Char's leukocyte count is well down, just like Laura Wine's in the early stages.
Possibly coincidence.
But the differential count is similar also, see?
These symptoms point to nothing positive. The lab tests are inconclusive. Is this a viral infection or bacterial?
Hal, the point is, do we make a connection between Char's illness and Laura Wine's?
And we cannot, Jeanette. Char's illness may be totally unrelated. Her condition is serious, but not critical. Breathing and pulse are steady. Blood pressure normal.
very dehydrated. Put her on the IV. She's got a thick membrane in her throat. I want to give her massive doses of hydrocortisone to help her adrenal gland.
Very well, Doctor.
And remember, next time, call me. Just do not believe it, Hal. I mean, I walk into the room and Shar, she's terminal. I mean, she just looked like this dead thing. She looked totally terminal.
But the nurses simply get used to seeing illness.
Her leukocyte count is risen. It's risen to the damn ceiling. Her blood pressure is low. She's cyanotic. She can hardly breathe. There's not one doctor in sight.
Yes, well, sometimes it's hard for them to see the wisdom of bothering a doctor.
Dr. Dane.
Sure.
My dear Rose, we have troubled times here at Jos. Our dear Shar Shaw went home to glory on February 13th. She had been sick with some strange infection which nobody here can fathom. I have been feeling a little feverish these past few days. This will come to nothing, I trust, since there is no time to get sick out here.
Fever, headaches, malaise. The pharynx is very red and ulceration has begun inside the mouth. Most significant, the leukocyte count is down, way down.
Penny nursed both Laura Wine and Shar. We have to assume that she now has the same thing.
The initial symptoms figure. The low blood count could signify leukopenia. That could mean typhoid, influenza, or is it simply malaria?
The other two failed to respond to chloroquine.
What is this? Bacteria, virus? What type? How is it carried? Shar pricked her fingers, so we assumed it was contractable only through a flesh wound. But now, Penny's illness, the germ must be spread by other means as well.
The doctors knew they needed help. At Jos, they could cope with malaria and many other serious diseases, but they decided to fly Penny to New York.
Oh, Dorothy.
Hey, she can't go home.
Yes. Dorothy, your furlough comes up in 6 weeks' time, so you're the obvious person to accompany Penny to New York.
You mean I take my furlough from right now?
And from a professional point of view, I can think of no better choice.
Oh, well, thank you, Dr. Jeanette.
Now, I've prepared a list of medicines for you to take with you. Penny is still able to take liquids orally, so IV equipment won't be necessary.
Now, she'll need her things packed for the trip.
Yes, Martha is attending to that. You'll also take an iced thermos flask containing specimens of blood and tissue from both Laura Wine and Shar, and of course their notes. And these will be collected by Dr. Frame in New York.
Okay.
The mission plane will fly you to Lagos, and then things may get complicated. Here's a covering letter, signed by me. It may help. Do the best you can. And take good care of Penny, won't you?
Dorothy.
Yes, Penny.
I'm so sorry you've been burdened with me like this, my dear.
Don't you worry.
How long are we gonna be in Lagos?
Oh, I'm not sure. Day or two, maybe longer.
Dorothy, you know something? Shar went 10 days after she got sick. And Laura Wine.
Don't think about it.
I've been sick 10 days.
In the United States, the missionary headquarters received a brief description from Jos of the mysterious illness. 4 days later, Dorothy finally managed to get Penny on a plane bound for New York. Dr. John Frame went to meet the plane.
John Frame, Division of Tropical Medicine, Columbia University. I'm the mission doctor for the Sudan Interior Mission.
Oh, you contacted me about my sister.
Oh, no, not me personally. I imagine that was the executive office in New Jersey.
Yes, that's right, New Jersey.
I'm attached to the Columbia Presbyterian Hospital where Penny will be admitted. But first, we're going to have a specimen of blood from your sister for analysis and then hopefully diagnosis.
I've been praying.
Dr. Frame had seen the brief report from Joss. He thought the symptoms of Laura Wine, Charlotte Shaw, and Penny Pineo didn't fit any known African disease. Could other passengers have caught it on the flight? Were they about to start a killer epidemic in New York? The airline authorities had emptied the first-class compartment for Penny and Dorothy and hung a curtain to separate their area from the rest of the plane. That should have been enough protection, but Dr. Frame could not be sure.
How are you, Dorothy?
Just nearly finished.
Penny, my love. It's Rose. Your sister, Rose.
Is it really you, Rose?
From Dr. Jeanette. It contains...
Thank you. Jeanette cabled us. An important point, Dorothy. If you get sick, call my office. Headache, sore throat, aching limbs, no matter how minor it seems. I want to hear from you. Welcome home, Penny. It's John Frame. Now, we're going to get you off to hospital just as soon as we can, but first we have to take a little of your blood. Penny, I'll make this as painless as I can. That's great. And now we can get you off to hospital.
Penny's condition was critical. Was she suffering from yellow fever, Marburg, dengue fever, maybe Congo fever? Or was it something entirely new? Frame knew her life might depend on solving the mystery fast. He called a colleague, Dr. Jordi Casals, who belonged to the Yale University medical team known round the world for its skill in identifying exotic viruses. The team agreed to try to help identify the elusive killer. Frame arranged for Dr. Wilbur Downs, head of the Yale team, to pick up the blood and tissue samples the next day. Meanwhile, Frame searched the medical journals for reports of diseases similar to what was attacking Penny.
How's the patient?
Well, her condition remains serious. The problem is finding the right therapy. If there is one.
But she lives.
So far.
Well, that's a plus. Is this the candy?
That's prepared for analysis.
Whole person's life, melted down to a box of tricks. Okay. I'll get the kids at New Haven out of this right away.
Good.
Downs knew his box of tricks could be more deadly than a bomb. He was in a hurry to get the investigation started. His team at Yale was waiting for him.
Now, we'll assume that we have a virus here until tests prove negative. Or, as the French have it, this character's guilty until proved not. Now, that might sound a little emotive coming from a hard-boiled scientist, but the fact is, 2 missionaries are dead and a third is on the fast slide. Now, the symptom profile in all 3 cases is similar. And preliminary tests at Columbia Presbyterian have thrown up a negative on bacterial infection. Now, here we have blood and tissue of the missionaries. Now, we'll all be very careful when handling this stuff. Are you listening, Geordie? Now, no apologies for reminding you that 4 scientists out of this research unit died while working on yellow fever virus. So anybody who comes anywhere near this stuff will wear cap, mask, gown, and surgical gloves. The whole outfit. Geordie! Now, you got that.
Okay.
Now, Bob, you're out of the action. You've got 3 young kids, and I...
4, actually.
4? Gee. Okay, well, you won't touch this stuff. We're a bit older and our kids are grown up.
Dr. Downs, am I to be involved in this work program?
Well, that's why you're here, Sonia.
But really, I'm very involved in preparation for the International Symposium.
But here's the stuff. All right, and we start now. Oh, one final nugget. The opposition have also received equivalent doses of this stuff. Center for Disease Control Atlanta are also trying to isolate that virus. They've had the candy for 1 day now, so they've got a head start on us.
But we are the best viral research team in the country.
Oh, yeah? Well, then let's prove it. Now, look at it like this. Our credibility as a research unit is on trial here. Now, if we don't beat CDC into the ground over this thing, then the Rockefeller Foundation can strike us off their charity list. And they'd be right to do so. If they can find somebody else to do the job better. So let's get to it.
First, they had to find out whether the blood and tissue samples actually contained live virus, and if so, they had to grow more of the virus under controlled conditions for analysis.
Maybe we should try inoculating baby mice first.
Right. Those suckling mice is more sensitive to everything.
Dr. Sonia Buckley tried growing virus in test tubes containing monkey cells, while Casals injected his mice. If the mice or the monkey cells died, they would know they had a virus alive and multiplying.
Get sick, mice. Jory, I wouldn't tell your wife about the work we're doing here. You better not to.
I never tell her anything anyway.
There's been a sudden rise in her temperature. Also, there are signs of fluid on her chest. Her leukocyte count has risen from a comparatively low figure to 12,000.
Which follows exactly the pattern of the first 2 victims.
They all look so damned healthy.
I don't think it's sick.
Hell.
Maybe it's too soon. We should wait.
Sonia might have better luck with her cell cultures.
9 anxious days passed.
The control group are perfectly intact.
Well, what about the inoculated cells? That's the little McCoy.
They were clean yesterday, as we shall no doubt discover. My God!
Oh, there's something growing in there, Sonia.
Every single cell has been hit.
Glad you're right. I think that's interesting.
Interesting. It's terrifying. It's eating my cells like a cancer.
Well, there we have it. Isolated.
In the hospital in New York, Penny Pinio hung on to life.
Now, we prepared a new set of tissue cultures and fed them with a virus-infected serum to see that that first experiment wasn't a fluke. And you're looking at the results.
All these cells have been attacked.
Cuckooed, every one of them.
What about the control group?
Perfect. Untouched.
Well, there's no doubt about it. We've isolated the virus, and it's tough as a lead pellet.
I do not understand about my baby mice. The mice remain healthy. Why does the serum kill your cells with this virulence and not affect my mice?
You know, maybe we're on a bum steer with these sucklings. Why don't we try inoculating a set of adult mice?
Their temperature's fallen again. Now 102.
Well, that's something.
You see how the virus has affected these adult mice? Some are dead, others dying. Oh, I'm so happy.
What about the control group?
In perfect health. Look. Try picking one up by his tail.
No, thank you, Geordie. You do it. Geordie! You should be wearing gloves.
Virus can't crawl up the creature's tail. See, its legs are extended. It's going rigid. It started convulsing. Now it's dead.
Oh, it's this teacher, Professor Moser. He always used to say, you don't have to be afraid of a corpse, but be aware of any living things which sneezes, coughs, urinates, or defecates.
You and your old professors. You know, when I picked up those dying mice by the tail, I could feel the tremor run through their entire body right up into my hand. These convulsive movements before death are familiar to me. They featured in some experiments I did with laboratory mice for the Rockefeller Institute way back in the 40s, with lymphocytic choriomeningitis, which is one virus that causes death in adults, but is far less severe in children.
Baby mice are also unaffected by LCM. They carry the virus, but they don't die.
Precisely.
Look, LCM belongs to South America. We've got the wrong side of the globe.
Unless this virus is an African version of LCM.
Look, does an LCM African virus exist?
I do not know of such a virus. Has our laboratory equipment been accidentally contaminated with an LCM virus?
Oh, no.
It is possible, however scrupulous we are. A virus here in the laboratory is maybe responsible for killing the cell cultures and the adult mice.
That would throw the whole thing out. We'll have to start all over again.
Look, nobody in this unit is doing any work on LCM. It makes it quite unlikely, Geordie. No, we cannot assume that we have an LCM-type virus yet. We need more tests.
Thank you for the flowers, my dear. And the pie. Bless you.
You're simply amazing, Penny.
Good afternoon, ladies. Hi, Dorothy. How you feeling, Penny?
Ravenous for meat. A T-bone steak would be just great right now.
I think that could be arranged, don't you, John?
Oh, surely. Medium rare or well done?
Big and rare.
I've come with exciting news. Yale have isolated a virus. Now, it's early days yet, of course. I mean, we still don't know if this virus gave you the fever. I'm sorry, Penny, we're going to have a drop more of your blood. Check and see if you've developed any antibodies. Now, if you have, and they neutralize this virus, well, then that proves it gave you the fever.
Right. Well, we've combined Pinio's convalescent serum with the virus. Now we'll see what happens to those cell cultures of yours a couple of days' time, Sonia.
Pinio's blood is teeming with antibodies.
Well, we proved that the virus that killed Wine and Shaw got Pinio sick. We've got neutralization. The virus plus serum, that's complete neutralization. No cell death anywhere? That's well done, Sonia. Neutralization in all 3 cases. And no word yet from Atlanta. Well, we would have heard something if they'd gotten this far. Believe me, we would have heard something. Well, maybe we scuttle the opposition, which would be better than Thanksgiving. All right, everybody here? Where's Jordy?
He went home.
Gone home? Look, we need him here.
His cold is bad.
See, this virus is so lethal that diluted 10 million times, it still kills cell tissue at a rate of 50%. And that's not the big number. We're dealing with a totally new virus. It's lethal and it is unidentified. Therefore, we can't identify the carrier, and that makes any kind of extermination program impossible. I mean, this thing could wipe out total populations, John, and there is nothing that we can do about it.
There's no alternative. We must trace the carrier.
Well, in the absence of virus identification, how?
Were there any clues at all as to what creature could harbor this germ?
If the virus belongs to the LCM group, an animal will carry it.
What kind of animal?
Well, LCM is a virus of rodents which become infected at birth.
Well, what kind of rodent?
Yeah, porcupines, rats, mice, squirrels. The Takariba virus itself is carried by bats. But we don't even know if it is a rodent. I mean, birds could carry the thing. We don't know because we have no previous experience of this viral type in Africa. We can be certain of nothing.
After all these years, I find out you really love me. You made me put on the safety belt. Oh, now if you could only get a job.
Jordy! I'm back!
Oh, Edward.
Jordy? Jordy! What's happened? What is it?
Don't come so close.
Boiling.
All set, Dr. John.
All right, Juan, let's have it. This is the killer. I should say killers. This one here and this one have come out of the cell. This one here and this one are budding from the surface. Now, the virus itself is not unlike the Mashupo, as we see here, and the...
That's similar to LCM.
That's right, and Janine. Now, we'll get back to our virus again. With negative staining, you can see the surface. Now, this is a mugshot, and that's the enemy. See, we're not talking about a new virus. The thing's probably been around for decades. It's only now that we've been able to isolate it.
Well, we've got to give this virus some identity, give it a name. That's important, so that our researchers here and in the field know exactly what we're talking about.
Any ideas?
Lassa Fever. That's where it all began.
You're making an assumption. The fact is, we simply do not know.
His symptoms connect with previous experience of the disease.
Very limited and very tenuous experience.
Ed, what do you figure's wrong with him?
I wish I knew, John. But we simply cannot assume that Jordy has Lassa Fever until all the results are in from the laboratory.
Those results could be days away. He could be dead by then. He is a very sick man.
Okay. Now, if Jordy has Lassa Fever, what are you going to do about it? We might as well order the crematorium right now. If you're right, his chances of survival are pretty slim, wouldn't you say?
Penny, we do have a survivor.
And that means that Jordy will also survive?
Well, I don't think John meant quite that, Dr. Laker.
Penny's blood is strung with Lassa Fever antibodies. Antibodies which could possibly destroy the virus in Geordie's system.
You proposing that we make a transfusion of Penny's plasma?
Yeah, it might just save him.
All right, give it to me straight.
Well, first, I'm worried about hepatitis.
Look, we've had Pineo's plasma tested for evidence of hepatitis, and there is none.
I'm worried about antibody-antigen reaction. I'm worried about kidney and liver shutdown.
But the man's dying in there.
Now, look, will you listen to me? This is a very serious decision. Acrimony's not going to get either of us anywhere. If Geordie dies from a transfusion authorized by me, then his death is going to be my responsibility.
Dad, you're so busy protecting your own ass.
Well, what about you? I mean, you know, altruism isn't entirely your bag. You're trying to get Yale off the hook. That's what's behind your spurious concern, I suspect. And you know, if Geordie dies from a virus contacted in your arbovirus unit, then the press are going to roast you in your own sweet fat, and you know it.
All right. I'm sorry. I apologize. You're right. I am concerned about Yale. I do not want this unit shut down over something like this, and it could happen. But that's not all.
I've been his friend and his physician for over 20 years.
Look, we at Yale, and Frame also, we've spent the day phoning around the country, talking to every expert we could in this field. The verdict is unanimous. Give him the plasma.
Hello, Downs. Well, Geordie's made a definite improvement. His temperature's fallen.
Thanks, John. Thanks. We did it.
Dr. Casals, I presume? I'm Penny Pineo. Hello, Miss Pineo. I'm so happy to see you recovering.
Thanks to you. You will never know how grateful I am.
Back at Joss, no new cases were reported for almost a year. Then, a young woman was admitted to the hospital with a severe hacking cough.
Medicine makes no difference, madame. The cough is very bad.
What do you do, Bucky? Tamalama salad. Prop her up with pillows, Elijah. Come over here a minute, Margaret. I want to talk to you. Now, we'll start her on a course of chloroquine. 600 milligrams orally. Write that down, Margaret.
You think malaria?
Tamalama Saleh recovered and left the hospital. But then another patient in the same ward died, and a new outbreak of Lassa Fever was underway. Some patients defeated the virus on their own, but there was very little the doctors could do to help the others.
The pattern is clear enough. High fever, shock, coma, death. Question now is, who'll be next? We have to get blood specimens away to Abaddon. Jeanette, I mean, come on, we must!
Dr. Jeanette, it's Margaret.
Thy loving kindness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Dr. Jeanette?
Isa.
The autopsy on Migre's body was performed by Jeanette Troop.
Hi, Jeanette. Are you through?
No, I'm not through.
Covered the body, that's all. Is something wrong?
You know something, Hal? I made a lot of mistakes since I came out here. And the Lord has just had to cover them up for me. Yes. And I just made another mistake.
I think you should get on the first plane to New York. I really do.
Hal, this is a matter for the Lord. Allow him to move in his own way.
We are not fatalists, Jeanette. We have a commitment to Christ, and we know our lives are in his hands, but it doesn't mean we should go walk under a bus.
Now, tell no one about this. I do insist. It would only cause a panic.
You are abdicating, Jeanette. No, I'm sorry. You are reneging on your responsibility as a human being.
Go now, please, Hal.
How are you feeling, Jeanette?
Fine.
How's your finger?
I know how concerned you are, Hal, and I do appreciate it, but please don't keep asking me that.
Okay.
How many of the staff failed to come in this morning?
6 or 7. They're scared. Who can blame them?
Lillian's complaining of a sore throat.
Mm-hmm.
Martha had one yesterday. Half the staff is suffering from psychosomatic sore throats.
Charleston's rapidly becoming a no-go city. The UK and American embassies have forbidden anyone to leave. No one without a special permit is allowed in. We're practically besieged.
The hospital community seemed helpless. Most of the dead were staff members.
It is his will, Martha.
7 people have died. And I find his will just a little difficult to understand sometimes, that's all.
After all, if he decided to take me home by means of the virus, he would have his own good reasons.
Take you home? God would never do that. He's not stupid.
The Lord knows best.
He knows how valuable you are to us here.
There would be no spiritual...
Dr. Howe? Dr. Howe?
In an attempt to save Jeanette Troop, Jordi Casals flew over from the United States with a supply of his own blood plasma. The transfusion technique, which had saved his life, was not sure to work, but it was a better hope than no treatment at all. Casals was a living reservoir of the only known medicine that could possibly cure Lassa fever. He was met at the airport by Dr. Graham Kemp, a virologist from Ibadan University.
But your cable said she was being flown here to Ibadan.
That plan was scrapped, Dr. Casals. Dr. Trout won't be needing your plasma now. She's recovering.
Was it Lassa?
The test confirmed that it was.
With Jeanette recovering, Casals and Kemp began the vital task of trying to track down the carrier of Lassa fever. They asked villagers to bring them specimens of many different types of animals, and then had the animals' blood and tissues tested for Lassa virus. A rodent seemed the most likely culprit, but there were so many kinds to test, and they didn't know which kind to focus on. But while they worked, Jeanette suffered a relapse.
We got all the Dr. Casals that are bad. His plasma might do it.
He's out of contact on a research expedition in the bush. No, our one hope is that Penny Pinio is on a flight from New York with a fresh supply of plasma. Please, God, let her arrive in time.
How?
Penny Pinio arrived too late.
The virus took 13 lives, over half of our cases here. But now the epidemic appears to have receded.
It's simply gone into hiding.
Yeah. Well, at least something positive could emerge now, hopefully. The outbreak's given us the opportunity to trace the actual mammal carrying the germ. First, we have to pin down the identity of the person who brought it here. Now, thank you. As most of the cases were originated here, this hospital's the probable source of contamination.
But there's no pattern. Where did it come from? Who started it?
Yeah, no, we have no index case to guide us.
Had to begin somewhere.
Right. Okay, here's what we do. Let's start working backwards. Screen all hospital cases prior to the outbreak.
With so many patients in a large hospital, tracing all of their movements was exhausting, frustrating work.
You know, I keep coming back to this one particular case. Saleh, Tamalama Saleh. Patient in A ward just prior to the outbreak of the disease. Left shortly after the first Lassa patient got sick. It's possible.
Symptoms undiagnosed.
Yes, but a number of her symptoms were identical to Lassa. Okay, let's try tracing a pattern, taking this woman's case as a hypothesis. Draw up a family tree of the spread of the disease using her as the root. See how it works. It fits beautifully. At some point, every Lassa patient had contact with this woman, Saleh, or contracted it from someone she could have given it to.
If it is Lassa, this is only a hypothesis. A cough is not typical of the disease.
Okay, Geordie, assume for a moment that she had Lassa. Now, let us consider the circumstances of her hospitalization.
Okay.
But is she our index case?
It's possible, but we have to test her blood for Lassa antibodies to confirm it.
How? How do we find her? We have no address.
But I thought you knew her. The hospital's familiar with her medical history.
She gave no address and probably changed her name.
She changed her name?
The tribe's people believe that the evil spirits won't follow them out of the hospital if they change their identity.
Great. That's just great. How do we even begin to trace her? Let alone the carrier.
Impossible. It slipped through our fingers.
We must ask around the compound.
You let us do it.
We can bleed her?
Yes, but only a small amount.
Tell her to keep still or she'll hurt herself.
Tamalama. Sair kurum. Bazai kichivu woba. Yayi! He says that's enough. Yayi! Okay, Jordy, you better stop now. If she proves to be our index case, Geordie, we'll need to catch some of these rats. Okay. We trapped 3 kinds of rats in the Kazuri Street compound. Mus musculus, Mus ruffinus, and Mus minatoides. And I'd be willing to place a little bit of money on Mus ruffinus.
You know something I don't know.
Well, let's just call it a hunch. Here. John Frame sent me this from New York. Dug it up amongst his archives.
When was this written?
After the war, by some French doctors studying an unusual fever in the upper Volta. The fever, it seems, was related to bush rats, specifically our friend Mus ruffinus. And the outbreak of the disease followed the burning of the savanna grass and the rat hunting in the dry season.
The villagers burn the grass to flush out rats and other small mammals, which they hunt for food.
So many died that the tribesmen refused to eat Mus ruffinus. Their instincts made the connection between the fire, the rat hunts, and the deaths in the villages. You know, it's strange. A lot of people, children especially, get Lassa, but they don't fall sick. They simply pass it on.
One of our early experiments at Yale showed that infected suckling mice don't die of Lassa because the virus belongs to the family of S.I.M fevers, and children are virtually immune to LCM viruses.
Geordie, it connects. When the rats are hunted, picked up by their tails, they get frightened. They urinate. And the rats are frequently caught by native children. The children pick up the virus from the rats, become infected, but they don't show it. Yet they still carry the virus and pass it on to adults.
A pretty theory. Prove it.
Okay, I will. If we can locate Lassa virus in these fat and healthy Mus ruffinus we trapped, then we've located the carrier. However, it's going to take a lot of bourbon.
It was a false lead. Tests at the CDC in Atlanta found no trace of Lassa virus in the Mus ruffinus tissues. The next year, in 1972, there was an outbreak almost 1,500 miles from Jos in Sierra Leone.
Lassa's here, Geordie. There's no question about it. We have a mortality rate of 40%. 64 cases, 23 dead.
Oh, God.
6 hospital staff have contracted it so far. 2 are dead. We're mighty glad to see you, Geordie. The plasma shipment will save quite a few lives.
Well, let's hope so.
Tom Monath is here from CDC. You've met him, haven't you?
Briefly.
The chest filled with fluid. We'll have to drain it.
Okay.
We haven't much time left.
Right. She's gone. The virus has taken her.
Right. Now we need to take fresh specimens for analysis. So we trapped 8 rats in that house, and it just so happens they all belong to the same species.
Mastomys natalensis.
Yeah.
A small bush rat, killed by the villagers in their tribal rat hunts.
Interesting.
I shall now fly this little cargo back to Atlanta for analysis. Listen, let's not put too much behind this. We've been disappointed before. This virus is a tricky little fella. He likes his fun. Could be another con. I'll lay $10 on this. And Mastomys natalensis is not, I said not, the carrier.
Not?
It's called hedging your bets.
Graham Kemp had already collected over 2,000 animals belonging to dozens of different species and had them tested for Lassa virus, all without success.
Red? Oh, Tom. I owe you $10. I mean, we have landed our culprit.
Mastomus natalensis?
Mastomus natalensis it is. Proven, confirmed, indicted.
We got him! At last we got the little bastard!
An important victory in the battle against Lassa Fever, but not the end of the war. The more doctors look for Lassa Fever, the more they are finding it throughout much of West and Central Africa. It's not usually as deadly as it seemed at first, but it could be striking as many as 250,000 people each year and killing 10 or 15,000. Most cases are misdiagnosed as malaria and other diseases. The virus might still be unknown if it hadn't attacked 3 American missionaries at a hospital connected with an alert New York doctor who just happened to know someone on a leading virus detective team. Today, the rat hunting still goes on, and rats still enter houses freely. Some progress has been made toward finding ways to treat Lassa patients, but the work is difficult, dangerous, and slow. This mass killer may not be vanquished until general living conditions in the area are improved, and it will take more than dedicated doctors to accomplish that.